Hello. We have 2 stories today of malicious compliance, but our first is anything but the usual fare. There's no great unraveling that most stories have. You know, where a poorly phrased direction causes a whole corporation to grind to a halt. But despite that, our first story hit the top of the charts last week on its strength of writing, as one well-meaning manager creates a parcel pandemonium and has to call in the sorting sorcerer. Story 1. I used to work for a rainforest-named company several years ago that primarily focused on shipping and delivering packages and orders from their customers online. Specifically, I worked at one of the distribution warehouses. It was the last stop for packages that were to be loaded into those blue vans that bring your new stuff to your front door. Big trucks would unload packages throughout the night to be sorted and prepped by the workers. Then the full bags of packages would be loaded onto vans in the morning to be delivered by the drivers to houses. This system repeated every day with only 2, sometimes 3 shifts of workers. And as luck would have it, I was happily placed on night shift. The work was simple, if not exhausting, and being at night meant we didn't have to worry about the heat as much as day shift. I won't go too deep into detail about how every job worked, but I'll try to give enough detail to help give you a good idea of what happened. After the usual new hire period, where I was just trying to find my groove and get used to the hustle and bustle of the warehouse, I found myself assigned to one of the nightly jobs that was unanimously described as the most difficult job there. And honestly, I completely agree with that. The packages would be unloaded from the trucks onto the conveyor belt. Then they needed to be pushed to one side of it or the other depending on which side of the building they would need to be going to. The packages would have a sticker with a letter A to Z followed by other indicators for where it would go later. The letter determining which aisle it was supposed to be in, and in turn, which half of the building it would need to be on based on where that aisle was compared to the belt. With me so far? Good, because if standing beside the belt pushing and pulling boxes and paper packages for several hours based on a letter sounds like an easy job, congrats! You would be placed across from me to get your brain melted by the pace we had to work at. Imagine, if you will, a rhythm-based video game set to a high difficulty, and then replace the buttons or notes with packages of different sizes. That would be a fairly close representation of what you would be staring at for not a few minutes, but several hours. Things would get so overwhelming that some workers would give up halfway through the night after getting too dizzy from having the rollers of the belt spinning in their vision for too long. The nights were even harder when the holidays came around and the belt would be absolutely packed with boxes falling off the side on the regular. But then you would look up across the belt, weary from the never-ending monsoon of labels and letters, and see me, listening to my nearby music and moving packages around like I had 2 extra arms and was some kind of splitting god. I will admit, it did take a while to get used to the flow when I first started. It also did put a bit of strain on the eyes. I would honestly just shut my brain off and let my eyes become unfocused as I just autopiloted the job like a madman. No one ever did better than me at this job during my time there. That's not my words, that was everyone who ever tried to replace me from that spot. Like when our unwitting antagonist of this story finally enters. A manager from day shift that we'll call Sam. Occasionally, managers would switch around from the different shifts to make sure they all knew how the place functioned properly. Cool, no problem. I got in for my shift on the night Sam was to manage our shift for once. I gave the usual hellos and ironic good mornings to everyone preparing for the night shift and went up to the job board. Everyone got assigned with a little name badge next to the job they would do that night as they came in. And since I was usually one of the first ones there, I would just say hi to the night manager as I moved my own name to the splitter position, as we both knew that it was my spot. This night, however, I went through those same motions, said hi to Sam, placed my tag on splitter, and went to go prepare the split zone for my day. A few minutes later, I get called over to the job board. Sam says, "So, hey, I wanted to let you know that I moved you to section A for the night. Go ahead and get a scanner set up and head on over." Me, confused, "But what about the splitting?" "Don't worry, we'll have it covered. We just need you over in A." I had already set up my place at the split zone, so I could handle it at my best. And he was already moving some stuff away so he could do whatever he was doing for the night. It was basically just a couple of package racks for damaged stuff I pull off the belt, as well as a place for my small speaker. I was a bit confused as the package count was higher than average that night, and a good splitter really takes the load off of a lot of other jobs down the line. Me, with my serious face, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Sam, confused. "Do what?" "Are you sure you don't want me up here? It's supposed to get pretty busy tonight." Sam, waving me off. "We'll be fine. If it gets too busy, one of us managers can jump in to help." When he said that, I actually chortled aloud briefly and shook my head. I had seen the managers split before, and none of them would last the whole night if they had to do it. Very few could, and I was unrivaled at the job, so I knew what was about to happen. The first trucks had already pulled in, and they looked pretty beefy to start with. I did some rough estimation. "All right, I'll give you 15 minutes. "Huh? 15 minutes? "Yep. Gotta go get a scanner now, not much time before that belt starts, and I have to get ready again." He had actually seemed confused as I walked off to get ready for my new job. I was a little bummed in all honesty. Splitting was my favorite job with how I could just shut off for a bit while doing it. Kind of like being in a trance or meditating. But the man said what the man said. Once the belt started, I went along doing my job, scanning and placing packages in bags. Not much to say other than it was slow and boring, but I kept an eye on my watch. Sure enough, barely 10 minutes passed when one of the lane supervisors, Ambassador, entered my lane. "Hey, OP!" Me, smiling. "They need me up front, don't they?" Ambassador, also smiling. "Yep, they just radioed it in. I'm here to take over until they get a replacement here." Me, checking my watch. 5 minutes ahead of schedule too. Must be pretty bad. Ambassador says, "They've already had to pull Jackpot back to the front twice. Guess I'll go save the day." Jackpot was a term we used for any packages that reached the end of the belt without being sorted. They were put in a large container and wheeled back to the front to do the whole run of it again. I handed the scanner to her and quickly made my way to the split zone. It was absolute mayhem. I saw the poor replacement splitter and 2 managers, including Sam, trying to calm the monster that was this night's intake. Packages were falling from the belt, people were being buried to their knees, and Sam looked like his eyes were about to explode with how wide they had gotten. I took a deep breath and cracked my knuckles mid-stride as I moved to the front of the line and said, "I've got this. Get those packages picked up and put into a Jackpot. Sam, I'm gonna need those racks back over here once it's cleared up. Other splitter, back up a bit and double-check my work." There was absolutely zero room for debate as everyone had no choice but to listen to what I said as I began to split the belt like I was conducting 3 orchestras at once. That 10 minutes I was gone took me another 20 to get things running smoothly again. Needless to say, I was thanked for the rescue and told to stay there for the rest of the night, much to my pleasure. Sam also proceeded to ensure that I was designated splitter every night I was there to avoid further problems. They also started to include me in conversations on how to train new splitters for the nights I was out, and any advice to pass along from my own experiences. I guess it sometimes does pay to be so good at a job that no one can question you. Aside from a couple future stories I might tell some other time, there were still nights that they put me at other jobs, but it was usually slower nights. I would usually be called up if someone gave up or it got busy though, which I didn't mind too much. As long as we were clear that at the end of the night, that was my spot. In the comments, Blarg Attack said, "Sounds like a poor logistical setup if they need what amounts to skilled labor to make it work. You could be an air traffic controller with those skills." OP replied, "If I could send the planes where they need to go with my hands, I could eliminate delayed flights." Bad Roommate said, "I like that Sam had the initiative to try to move people around, probably thinking about cross-training, and that he had the wit to quickly recognize that this had been a terrible mistake, and the humility to not stand on his manager credentials and instead defer back to the actual expert on scene. I suspect he wound up being a pretty good manager." OP replied, "He had a few slips, but he ended up being all right in the end. Takes a lot to admit one is wrong." OP kinda sounds like the type that would work out to make sure they stay fit to do their job so well. They obviously take it super seriously, and being the best at it, calling it the split zone? I can just picture this jacked up person playing the Top Gun soundtrack. Highway to the danger zone. Push, pull, push, push, pull. Sounds like a great workout. They even overestimated the amount of time it'd take to get put back in that spot that was clearly made for them. Our second story is a whirlwind work tale where one woman finds herself trying to balance way more jobs than any one person should. When one of her jobs to add some after-work, unpaid duties that threaten to throw off her careful balance, our heroine decides to add a pinch of mischief to the mix with some not-so-safe-for-work items. Story 2. I work 3 jobs. The hours and days vary. My full-time job is in an office space in a very fancy, modern office with a great company. They have some great amenities on site too, a full gym, lockers and showers, full cafeteria, etc. My second job is close to full-time depending on other employees' availability. No set schedule, very chaotic, and not well ran. It's a boutique just a bus ride from my office, and it's all in a very busy downtown tourist port city by the ocean. The thing is, it's a tourist boutique. It's all city-branded trinkets, shirts, postcards, and gifts. There's really not much any locals would want, unless buying it for out-of-town family. Third job is a fast food place. I'm often between these 2 jobs and don't have time to run home between. I carry a gym bag with me with my tiny purse, wallet inside, along with clean business professional clothes, gym clothes, and work uniforms to change in and out of. Extra underwear, it's summer and extremely hot, and our buses don't usually ever have AC. So if there's time, I'll shower at the office and I have travel-size shower items. A book for the bus rides, I don't have a car. Lunch and snacks, hairbrush. Apparently, the boutique has experienced a lot of loss. It's something we had previously brought up being an issue because our boss, the owner, will have big tables and buckets of items outside. They were by the sides of the door where we can't monitor them, especially if we're inside with customers. People definitely take advantage, and we've seen a lot of people grab things and just walk off. These aren't the cheaper items in the store either. We've lost an entire display of mid-price sunglasses, handfuls of bikini separates. At one point, the entire table was emptied in a grab and run with about 5 younger people. But he thinks it's us stealing things. His wife runs the store she's always in. She said we have a new mandatory bag check and every employee in the store is a woman who usually carries a purse or bag. It's not just a quick look through the bag. She wants to remove the items and feel around the sides of the bag and make sure we aren't taking any trinkets and items. I'll be honest. I haven't seen anybody on staff, there's 4 of us, ever steal anything. I don't even think it's because they're all stand-up employees. I think it's because they don't care to own any of the cheap, tacky tourist items. However, because my bag is bigger, it's been kind of a nightmare for me. She wants me to take every individual item out of my bag and show that there's nothing wrapped up inside of it. Lay it out across the table by the register. The first day of this, I was late to work because she wouldn't start checking my bag until I clocked out. Then she took her time with a customer, causing me to be almost a half hour late to my other job. I considered that I could just continue getting lockers at my office, but they're day use only. So, depending on my schedule, I'd have to make a separate trip to get back to the office before the building closed to remove my items, and it wouldn't be feasible with my other jobs. I'm honestly pretty sure the staff who cleans the lockers at the end of the day probably wouldn't mind. I could work something out for me, but I don't feel like I need to go out of my way to keep a steady rotation on a locker. If my boutique manager wants to make things awkward and difficult on me, I'm going to turn around and do it right back to her. She is a very tightly wound conservative lady. So, I added a few extra items to my gym bag. I picked up a menstrual cup. Period talk makes her absolutely faint. I included some new reading material. Old 70s nudie mags I keep at the house for aesthetic purposes, and I just like them. I swapped in some of my spiciest and functionally impossible underwear, but also one of my granniest of pairs. I also, for no reason at all, included condoms and furry cuffs. A gay gift at my sister's bachelorette party. I also picked up a pamphlet at a nearby community center for their group therapy for bereavement. It went off perfectly at the end of my shift. There were customers in the store, and she made me go through my bag, item by item, opening them up and holding it up so she could check to make sure there was nothing hidden. I carefully fanned out my old magazines to show there was nothing between the pages. I pulled out each set of undies like a creepy fashion show, holding them up to the light so she could see directly through the lace. Every item we pulled out of the gym bag made her more and more flush. She was so uncomfortable she could barely perform the check. She nearly had a panic attack when I pulled out a little sandwich baggie with a menstrual cup in it. Oh my gosh. I even pulled out the pamphlet and set it aside slowly with intent to seem affected by it. She looked at me quizzically and kind of confused, asked, "What's this about?" And I said solemnly, "Oh, I haven't lost anybody, but it's a great place to meet new people." I pulled the condoms out right after saying that. Oh my gosh. Oh, well played. My second bag check was definitely faster than the first, and I was finished and out the door in time to catch my bus and arrive to work early, actually. Speedrunning the bag check wasn't my initial plan, but it was definitely an unconsidered plus to the situation. I honestly wouldn't mind doing a bag check if they really felt like it's necessary. But the invasiveness of making every employee pull out everything in their bags? On a table where every customer in the store has a plain view of everything they have? It's a little much. Plus, purposely making it take so much time that it interferes with other jobs and personal lives is crossing the line. But now I'm kind of excited to see what other items I can include in my gym bag just to keep her on her toes. I don't want it to be too obvious, but just enough to make her consider that a lady's bag is usually private. Never mind that upending it for all our customers to see might not be great for business. Edit. Thank you all for the information about bag checks having to be performed before clocking out. I definitely did not know that and will be bringing it up with my coworkers and the manager. Update. Bag checks are officially canceled. Day 2, the rest of the employees and I gave the manager the information about bag checks needing to be completed on paid time. She absolutely did not appreciate having to stick to our personal time schedules to complete the task. By day 4, all my coworkers and I had brought in so many personal and uncomfortable items that she was no longer feeling it necessary to check. Thank you all for the suggestions. In the comments, Stu Bidasol said, "The bereavement pamphlet and condom combo was pure gold." Foolish Stone replied, "Hey there, so it looks like you're newly single." Large Consideration 54 said, "Accuse her of stealing some money or expensive jewelry when you looked away for a minute while she was checking your bag. Turn the table, then ask to search her bag and person before you file a police report. She will see how violated you feel." Miss Fern replied, "Where's my ring?" LOL. This is craziness. I have definitely been in stores and have seen staff going on break or leaving and asking the manager or supervisor to peek in their bag. So that seems like it's a common thing. But taking each and every item out for close examination? Who does that? Nobody wants to steal your crap, lady. Teamwork really does make the dream work, though. Gotta love how these employees banded together to get under their boss's skin. Really leaves me wondering, though, what was the most scandalous item? And that's it for today. Until next time, shine bright, Starlight. Yahoo! If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.